Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Unboxed Live. I'm your host, Rob Gagne.
And I'm your other host, Nate Beck.
This is going to be so much fun today, you guys. I can't wait to do this. We've been talking and thinking of all different ways to do this. And we actually got this idea from Perdomo Cigars. But before we get into all the explanations, because I knew a lot more talking after we get Nate started, we want to get started. Things that you're going to need, obviously, is a buddy, a blindfold, a cigar, unbanded, and then cut and all that stuff. So I'm basically Nate's assistant doing everything for him so that he can just focus on the cigar. We're trying to remove all the bias. If you look at a cigar, the color, all that. So I'm going to keep this hidden.
I can't see a thing.
Even from the peeps out in the world of the internets, because, you know, we're all just going to go into this blindfold. Completely blindfolded. I didn't prepare the cigar beforehand because we've been talking and, you know, figuring out how we're going to do this. Okay, so I have the cigar here. Nate can't see it, so he has no idea the shade, the color, the size until I hand it to him. So Nate, what I would like to know is, do you want to me to cut this cigar first, or do you want it first like this and then cut it afterwards?
Let's take a look at it now.
Okay, here's the cigar.
I think, all right, so pretty standard cigar shape. I'm going to guess this is like Corona Gorda, maybe.
Okay, you're getting kind of like the size of the cigar.
You know, kind of classic flat cap. It's not a real, like, what's the word we'd use? Toothy wrapper that I can tell.
Is toothy visual or is toothy feeling?
I think it's both, because, like, you know, to use an example, like a Padron cigar actually feels almost a little like sandy or gritty to me when you touch it. The type of wrapper leaf they use, that Mexican wrapper, is, you know, it's got kind of that gritty feel to it. This feels pretty smooth. It doesn't feel particularly oily, at least in my fingers. All right, I got a pretty good idea.
All right. So now we're going to cut the cigar for Nate.
Smells good.
And you're going to be able to do a cold draw.
Yep.
Hopefully I know how to cut a cigar. Do a little Nate tap.
Yep, always do the tap.
All right, Nate.
All right.
Here you go.
All right.
That's
all right.
The head of the cigar. And you can
smell the foot first here. Ooh, a little bit of sweetness. Earthy for sure.
And I'm writing basically down sweet, earth. I'm just keep going down as he names stuff.
Have to remind myself, Rob, to keep my mouth open when I'm smelling things like this. Remember when we talked about that? Because you can smell far more, you can perceive more aromas and flavors when you smell things with your mouth open. I think cedar, kind of a woody smell. Not quite sure what the sweetness is. It doesn't smell kind of like that classic, like dried fruit smell, but there's a little sweetness there.
So I do have a flavor wheel from Cigar Sense. Well, they call it an aroma wheel. So when we're in the area of sweetness, there's a first ring, which is basically what he was hitting on. He said wood, and then he said cedar. So I put a dash and wrote that on the outside.
For sure, cedar on the cold draw.
Okay. And those were notes on the foot. So cold draw is wood cedar.
Mm-hmm.
And then can I get on the foot? You said earth, but can we get more specific, like
sure,
mushroom, moss, peat, truffle?
I'd go more like peat. Kind of that earthy, like a little bit of kind of, you know, if you could pick up a clump of grass that has some dirt attached to it, kind of that smell.
I'm going to slash grass. How about on the sweet side? Is there any way to boil that down? Are you talking like chocolate?
There is on the cold draw.
Gingerbread?
I'm going to go, there's like kind of like a milk chocolate sort of flavor on the cold draw. Definitely dried cherry on the cold draw. As far as fruity sweetness.
And this is why Nate's doing this and not me. Because
I'd even go like chocolate covered cherry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like I used to get boxes of these when I was a kid. They're one of my favorite Christmas treats. And my uncle and I would have contests to see how far across the room we could chuck one and catch it in our mouth without killing ourselves and choking to death on a gigantic chocolate covered cherry.
Oh, that's funny.
And the inside of a chocolate covered cherry has that like vanilla-y sugary liquid, around the cherry.
Yeah, gross. Ew. I don't like those. Just kidding.
Yeah, chocolate covered cherry.
All right. How do you feel about...
There is some of that earthiness though, like sort of like soil, kind of that like not barnyard smell where you'd have kind of all those other manure hay-like qualities in there, but like sort of like if you were to just kind of dig up the garden or turn up the soil in a garden, that's what it tastes like.
Okay. Some of these get weird.
Right?
Like, why would you want to smoke dirt? It's part of the experience, I guess. I don't know.
I kind of enjoy that flavor. Like I love beets and I love it when they're like
perfect example.
Extra, like it tastes like dirt. And that's what people generally hate about beets is that dirt flavor. It's like a minerally, irony kind of flavor. I like that in wines. I like it in coffee.
Yeah.
That mineral component.
Yeah. I definitely don't like the dirt flavor of beets, but that, teach their own.
Yeah, definitely like dirt from a garden. Like if you were filling up a planter box with fresh soil, it kind of smells and tastes like what that smells like.
Perfect. Should we get into lighting it?
Let's do it.
All right. So again, we have the flavor wheel as just trying to boil it down further. I mean, one could argue that I may have led examples to Nate and he, was like, oh yeah, but I felt like from what you gave me, you didn't really pick up on any leading.
Yep.
And you just drilled it down further.
I think sometimes though, a few examples of a category kind of gives you a window or a baseline of some other things that might come to mind. Like you might hear dirt or fresh cut hay or grassy, like, a mowed lawn.
Right,
that kind of.
That's the mouth.
Okay.
Right there.
All right.
So yeah, now you're smelling the smoke coming off the foot.
Ooh, nutty. Almost kind of like, well, sadly, like toasted almonds. All right, here we go. Ooh, first taste is great. Yeah, tons of almond. There's that like vanilla-y sweetness that you get like in the inside of a like a Milky Way bar, that nougat. There's like a few words I use for this flavor. I'll use like nougat, or if people know what marzipan is, like that sweet almond paste. Even a little bit of like vanilla, kind of what the inside of that chocolate covered cherry tastes like. Big blast of cedar, like loads of cedar on the retrohale on this. This tastes really good. Yeah, again, I don't think it's a real oily wrapper, just from the mouthfeel.
Okay.
It's got a... Ooh, I just got like a little like fresh herb quality on that last puff.
Any specific herb?
Almost like a hint of... I generally, when I say fresh mint, I generally am never referring to like that synthetic mint, mint gum kind of flavor.
Right.
But fresh mint has a really pleasant, almost like basil kind of quality to it. Kind of like that.
Sweet. That's funny. That's not even in the flavor wheel off of herb.
Isn't it?
No. Interesting. I wonder if it shows up anywhere else.
This is really pleasant. I really like this. This is a completely unique experience. I've never tasted a cigar like this before.
Is it heightening your senses?
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't see anything. And theoretically, if you did this without all the chatter, you can get pretty deep on it. And I'm pretty sure from talking from Charlie Minato from Half Wheel, this is how he does his reviews. He's very dark, quiet, isolated, no external stimulation, really. Try to cut it all out.
There is definitely like fresh mint.
All right.
In the best way.
So if you guys are wondering what I'm doing, I am quite literally going about, we got this camera over here.
You guys see that?
Can't see it. That's okay.
All right.
No, they can see that. I was trying to show this, but really I'm just going through and saying, first part was what he was feeling in the cigar. So smooth, not toothy. Notes on the foot. He had sweet, earth, wood. Earth got down to peat and grass, wood, cedar. Cold draw. He's got wood, cedar. The sweetness was milk chocolate, dried cherry, chocolate covered cherry, earth, dirt, soil, turnip. So that's all on the cold draw. And then the next part is smoke off the foot. He said nutty toasted almonds. And then he went straight into tasting the first third. So I'm writing down almonds, nougat, cedar on the retrohale, fresh herb, -mint. So I'm trying to just give him the best options of all the flavors he's tasting as they come up.
Sure.
And trying to note them in the section that they are. So it's kind of like title the section of what it is, and then what is he tasting or smelling.
Are you writing any of the notes, Rob, like in a circle like that
no,
flavor wheel is? Okay.
Not at all.
All right.
Because I think the flavor wheel is just to make it easier instead of a list. I mean, who wants to look at a list?
Here's another weird flavor I'm getting off of this. Like it's reminding me of a little bit when I sort of smack my lips after taking a draw. The like baseball bubble gum, like the bucket of like little nuggets of pink bubble gum, a little bit of that. There's a tiny bit of that I'm reminded of.
All right. And you can get as weird, like I literally just wrote down baseball bubble gum. Say that 10 times fast on lips.
That's what the sweetness reminds me of. I'd say there's a little bit of like, I would say white pepper on the retrohale.
Okay.
It's not a lot of like heavy spice, like that peppery spice. I would say like a good example of that peppery spice would be like a classic Tatuaje Regios. That's, it's got that blast of pepper on the retrohale, where your sinuses just really tingle. This is far more subtle. Like it's kind of creamy with a little hit of that white pepper on the end. Yeah, there's nothing in the way of grassiness like you would find or hay, like you'd get in a Davidoff kind of core line, Anniversario cigar, where it really has that noticeable hay barnyardy kind of aroma. That's one of the flavors I really like in cigars, but I'm not getting anything like that off this cigar.
Matt, I'm airdropping you right now the actual cigar on Half Wheel. So you can keep that secret until the end. But maybe if we wanted to go to the first third there, the people out there in Never Neverland could find out. So whatever you want to do. But this obviously, again, would take some time to do with a partner. We got this idea from Perdomo, Nick Perdomo. When I went to go record a video with him in Miami, he had said, this is how they do their tasting. And whenever a new cigar comes out, this is how they're doing it with a group of people that they know and know how this whole process works. And he feels like he gets a better representation of what the cigar is, whether it's good or bad.
Interesting.
I can see why.
Sure.
Because at this point, if you're a Connecticut guy and the wrapper's dark, you're already like, it's too bitter, it's too dark, it's too strong. But you remove all that.
Yep.
There's a lot of, so Standard and Twain is like another great cigar of the month club.
Yep.
That unbands everything, which is in and of itself a ton of fun.
Yep.
And we both received those boxes. We both enjoy it because it really puts you in a position of, don't know what this is, but I think it might have an idea based on visual.
Yep.
If it's a box press, if it's a torpedo, if it's dark or light wrapper, but this removes that.
I think it'd be really fun with the Standard and Twain idea where it comes unbanded. So you don't know what it is. You don't know who the producer is. When you do this blind, like true blind tasting, Rob, you picked out a cigar. You knew what it was. You know everything about it. If you did something like Standard and Twain, you could have a friend get the cigars. They wouldn't know what they are, but they could see, the visual aspect of the cigar. But you could have somebody else blindfold, taste, figure out what they think is in the cigar, maybe give a guess as to what the wrapper is, a guess at what the cigar is maybe, and then it's a surprise for both of you.
And you could do this yourself with Standard and Twain or anything where you just want to like unband the cigars and put 3 or 4 of them in there and then just grab them. And instead of writing down your tasting notes, just get a recorder on your phone and record them, voice record it. So you could do it that way too, on your own. Blindfold yourself, pull out a few cigars, make it random, and then you're good to go. But I like the partner side of this just because it's easy.
Fun.
It's fun. It's, I don't know. You could get multiple people going.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, you could have a moderator of sorts and have, 2 or 3 or 4 friends all get blindfolded and then hand them each their cigar, cold draw, smell the foot, cut it, light it, hand it to each person, and then start just taking notes of what each person thinks.
Yeah. There's different ways to do this, obviously, but as soon as I heard about it, I was like, that's brilliant. We got to try this. And I think there's a publication called Blind Man's Puff.
Sure.
Which I always was interested by their logo because it's literally Nate's face right now. It's a person blindfolded as their logo. And so I was wondering, I wonder if they do their tastings this way. I don't know.
Sure.
But anyways.
Be curious. We should look that up.
I know.
Do I need to ash anytime here soon?
Yeah, I can do that for you.
All right.
So hang on.
Got it. Keep my hand here. Got it.
There
awesome.
You go. So you're really just helping this person the whole way through. Now, there's different flavor wheels out there. I know Holtz had one. I use Cigar Sense just because it was the quickest one for me to pull up, and it's free. If you just put in your email, you get a free flavor wheel. It's really easy. Now, they don't call it a flavor wheel. They call it aroma. They have an explanation of that whole thing of why they call it an aroma wheel, because you're really, I don't know. It gets too geeky for me because I don't actually understand all of it, but you are smelling as well as tasting. And technically, I think taste buds you have like limited to 7. So you're really doing a lot more smelling in the cigar tasting experience than anything else. And so I guess that's what it boils down to. That's the way I took it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the way I had it. And I love the fact that it's the inner ring, because I'm lucky to even get to the flipping inner ring. Like if I'm like, oh, I detect wood. Great. What kind? Haven't got a clue. Don't know. And cedar's like a dead giveaway.
Right.
Because especially if you have a cedar wood humidor, you're going to taste that. But like pencil, pine sap, sandalwood.
Sure. I know what sandalwood smells and tastes like. Yeah.
There you go.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, it can get, and if you really want to get better at tasting, I guess really it's to have some of this stuff in there, like white pepper and black pepper. That's a great one. You can just pull out of the cabinet, the spice cabinet, or go to the spice store and get it.
Another flavor, Rob, leather.
Leather.
And leather, like a brand new wallet fresh out of the box. Like it doesn't have any of your oils on it. You haven't had it in your pocket. It doesn't have any mixed aromas on it, like your favorite cologne, anything like that. Just that fresh tanned leather right out of a box. I'm getting a lot of that.
Sweet. And I would say we're probably still in the first third.
Okay.
And then, eventually you got to switch it over to like the second third and the final third. And we're probably not going to get there on this video at all. But anyways, who is in the comments here? Let's see. Throw up a couple of comments. Is that Alexander? He should wear the blindfold more often. Maybe that's me. He directed that at. I should probably wear a blindfold more. I don't know. Jeff here. What does Jeff say?
Must be working for me.
What would iodine taste like? I don't think you threw that out, but like, I think iodine to me has like a strong smell. If you've ever smelt it.
Yep. It's going to be salty.
So I've never tasted iodine, but it's pretty common in Scotch, right? Like in Scotch reviews and tasting.
I think iodine often like gets referred to as like a Band-Aid flavor.
Band-Aid in Scotch for sure. And that comes mainly from the peat, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. It gets a lot of that brininess from the salt that's in that, especially the peaty Scotches that are from Islay, spelled Islay. They get so much of that ocean air that wafts over, figuratively a small island, that gets infused into everything. So you get that iodine and that saltiness that's it's just in the ground. And then that comes through so my favorite Scotch is Lafroig, and they literally use dried peat to dry and heat the malt to get it to germinate. And so you get lots of layers of that peat and iodine in that Scotch.
Put up Bruce's comment. Bruce, it's hard to see what's going on with my blindfold, but it sounds cool. Okay, don't do the blindfold yet, Bruce. All right. That's our social media guy. So shout out to Bruce. If any of you saw the teaser, we went through the Starbucks drive-through with a blindfold on Nate driving. So, nobody was hurt. He took the blindfold off, but yeah, it was kind of fun. And
tidbit of information I was unaware of: when you go through a Starbucks drive-through, you're not allowed to be smoking while you're in the drive-through.
She said that. So that happens.
Word of advice to those who are cigar smokers and like to smoke in the car.
Yeah.
Put it in your car ashtray when you get up to the window.
If any of you have other questions about this, we've provided some links and some how-tos. So obviously the layout of this step-by-step, as well as the link to the cigar scents. And then once we're all done, we'll go ahead and toss in the link to the cigar as well from Half Wheel, so that we can kind of compare how well Nate's palate marked up to whomever did the review over at Half Wheel. I don't know if it was Charlie or Brooks or
I'm getting a little bit of it isn't a spiciness, like the retrohale isn't like super tingly, but like a chili pepper, like an ancho chili pepper flavor.
Ancho?
Mm-hmm. ANCHO. It's
never heard of that.
Basically, it's ancho chili peppers are dried poblano peppers. So they're try to get the gauge. They're a longer, kind of skinnier green pepper looking. But when they dry them, they call them ancho chili peppers, and it's got one of the best flavor profiles of all the dried chilies.
Nice.
At least I think so.
You're taking the flavor wheel to a whole nother level, Nate.
Sweet.
I mean, in the pepper section, there's just, the black, green, red, and white pepper.
Yep.
But, I mean, chili pepper ancho.
Yeah. And this gets into, you can get it as a spice, as a powder. So it'd be essentially like a spice, but then you can also It gets a whole nother flavor when you tear the top off, dump the seeds out, and then kind of shred it and toast it in a pan with some oil. Well, actually, you could do it with oil, or you can kind of dry toast it, and it sort of softens up the dried chili pepper. So, like, if you're going to make a sauce like a mole, have you ever had mole, Rob?
The brown sauce.
Yeah.
With a bunch of stuff in it.
Yeah, and mole has several different dried chili peppers. It's got sesame seeds, untoasted, or like they're not raw almonds, but they're not a lot of toast to them at all. So they're just kind of those white dried almonds. It's got dried fruits in it. It's got all these layers of flavor. So it's a really interesting mix of stuff, but you'll often toast the peppers before you're going to puree them and make them part of the sauce. So they release a lot of their flavors. And that's something that works well with any sort of spice that you haven't ground yet. You warm it up and toast it a little bit, and it brings all those, it releases all those volatile oils, terpenes, if you will.
Yeah.
Before you grind them, and it just adds just a blast of aroma and flavor.
Sweet. It's on a whole new level here.
Oh,
new flavor?
Yeah, that was more savory. Let me try that again. It's almost just like a little bit of saltiness, like briny, a little bit like olive brine, kind of that sort of twang to it.
Interesting.
It's not bitter like that, but it's got kind of that. That's the only thing I can think of that has that kind of.
Is that even on the flavor wheel?
Yeah, probably not.
Put that over in other.
How many categories you got
there's
now?
A pretty big other section for Nate's flavor wheel.
On that flavor wheel, how many sections are there? Are there a lot?
Let's see.
Like a dozen?
1, 2,
more than
3, 4, 5. You're talking the inner circle?
Yeah.
14.
Okay.
Let me know if you want anything at all, but you've hit on, let's see, 1, 2, at least 3, 4.
It's like
5.
It's like an umami flavor. Like, do you know what umami is, Rob? That quality that like mushrooms have, or soy sauce, or like MSG is an ingredient in a lot of foods that adds like a roundness and richness of flavor. It's what people love about, kind of the richness in a great steak. It's that umami flavor.
Oh, that's my favorite.
It's got a lot of that right now. I can't quite put my finger on. It's not really a meatiness. Kind of that brininess is a little bit what I was getting at. Is this cap coming undone?
A little bit. Hang on.
Sorry to have you touch that.
Well, I don't mind, as long as you don't mind.
I don't mind at all.
So I think you're probably approaching the second, third soon.
Okay.
I don't know how technical you guys will be out there.
I'll let this sit for just a minute.
And then that was my other question I was going to ask you is, oftentimes, if you heat the cigar up too much,
it's just getting a little warm.
You can screw up the flavors because the oils burn off too quickly. So are you controlling kind of like slow draws to try to get the best flavor out of it?
Yep, and I'm trying to just feel how hot it's getting. So I'm going to give it a second here. And
okay.
It's getting a little warm. Do you have any other questions, people have?
Well, Julie posted, Nate mentioned terpenes. What are those? Yeah, terpenes are the flavors, the oils on the cigar. And that's actually what you're smoking, surprisingly. And that's why moisture and temperature matters so much. I'm not so much worried about temperature when you're storing. That doesn't bother me because Boveda adjusts for that. So I'm not a huge temperature, but temperature when you're smoking is hugely affected. Just try it sometime. Just try heating up the cigar, lots of puffs, and see if the flavor changes, and then let it rest, and do like a slow, like 5-second draw that's slow and not super fast. And you're going to notice that the cigar tastes totally different. And for me, it's even like when I set it down, I almost need to set the cigar down so I don't keep puffing on it. And then I come back to it at 2 minutes later or so. And I'm like, wow, that tastes so good.
Sure.
It's because it's cooler. And those oils and sugars then aren't getting burned off so quickly.
Yep.
Or they're not getting burned so harshly that they turn bitter.
Yep.
So, and that's why when you store your cigars with Boveda, the temperature or the water activity or the moisture in there matters, because that changes the way the cigar burns. So it changes the temperature.
I would like, now I'm tasting, now that I haven't puffed for a little bit, coffee.
I'm going to just label that as mouthfeel.
Yep. Like almost like sort of over roasted coffee. French roast, maybe Italian roast, that kind of where it's got a little bit of a burned edge to it. And that might be just because the cigar was getting warm.
This is so interesting. I wonder if this would actually help me be able to taste cigars better, or if I would just be lost. But I'm going to do it off camera. I was very nervous about doing this on camera because I didn't want it to flop and go, Rob, what are you tasting? Cigar. And what are you tasting now? Just tasting some more cigar. But you have a good palate.
Hope so.
No, you do.
Thanks, man.
I enjoy it.
I like tasting. Flavors are a really fun thing for me.
And I think too,
Curious.
The other thing is, what I know about you is you do a lot of food experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you're done with that draw, I'm gonna ash, because you're getting into the second, third for sure now.
That fresh mint quality is coming back.
Okay. Hold your hand out. And
Got it.
there you go.
Beautiful.
But what I know about Nate is he does do a lot of, you're tied into like a lot of chefs.
Yep.
In the area. They all cook with some like uniqueness, like,
Yep.
The ancho dried peppers. I would not be familiar with that.
And like, if people want to know what like mineral or iron tastes like, one of my favorite things, and I have a couple of my kids. So I have 5 kids, and we've tried to take them to all these fun restaurants. In my previous life, I ran a food truck / cart serving artisan hot dogs, and got to be friends with a lot of cool chefs and brewers and what have you. And so I've been fortunate to experience a lot of really good food and a lot of unique flavors. And chicken liver mousse is one of like our family's favorite things. And it can kind of be super minerally and irony, because liver has a lot of iron in it.
Yep.
Kind of metallic is kind of a way to describe that. Like if you were to lick a penny, kind of that metallic taste. But if it's balanced, it has this great mineral irony quality to it that I really, really like. So if you wanted to know what that flavor was like, go to a restaurant that serves it, get some chicken liver mousse, spread it on some really good like grilled toast, and that stuff is delicious.
Chicken liver mousse. So it's not pate. Pate?
You can make a pate with it, but that's going to be a little bit denser. Sometimes you can slice pates, and you can make a pate out of almost any cut of meat. And often pates are like heavily spiced. Like, have you ever heard of head cheese?
Yeah.
So head cheese is called that because it kind of looks like a block of cheese, but it's all the parts, all the meat from the head of an animal, which is some of the tastiest parts of an animal, like the cheeks or the jowls. And that all is incorporated, and there's a lot of spices in it. So it has this really unique spice quality to it, and this really meaty kind of fatty richness. It's delicious. It gets a bad rap, but it's really, really good.
Encyclopedia hour with Nate. I just love this like depth of knowledge. So basically what you're saying is the mousse is literally like a chocolate mousse, but it's made with liver.
Yeah,
Chicken
and
liver.
often you'll see it plated almost looking like, how, have you ever seen if a chef is scooping out ice cream, if they're really plating it nicely, and they take 2 spoons and kind of
Yes.
shape it into what they call a quenelle. I think that's the right name. and it creates sort of almost like a football shape. They'll
Yep.
often do that with chicken liver mousse. So you'll see a piece, you'll get like this portion of chicken liver mousse that's like the shape of a football.
Is it very light and foamy? Like
It's a little thicker. It's more like a kind of like a cream cheese consistency.
okay.
Sometimes it's a little lighter than that, if depending on how how much liquid or how they emulsify it.
I was literally thinking of mousse, like light foam.
No, it's not quite that light. Yeah, they call
texture.
it chicken liver mousse, but it's more like kind of like a cheese spread or a cream cheese kind of consistency. It's a little bit thicker,
so closer to pate.
Uh-huh.
It's thick like that.
Yep.
But it's cooked or
spreads very easily.
It's made in a different way than regular pate.
Yep.
Hard to probably find. You probably have to go to artisan chef, someone who high end.
Yeah, you're going to typically then be going to a nicer, more fine dining restaurant to get something like that.
We can drop in and reveal the cigar to everyone else off the Half Wheel website. That's the cigar, folks, that we have up. Matt, if you want to scroll down to the first third, and we can keep scrolling down. You can go down to the part where we kind of know the cigar, where it's from. Again, I like this about this company because they'll say wrapper, binder, filler, and they'll give you the location versus just they won't just give you the location of where it was made or where it was found. They'll try to give you the territory in that location where it comes from. That to me is more helpful than anything because, just a country of origin is not helpful enough because there's so many different types of tobacco that come out of that country.
Sure.
And all of them, so it's just like stupid that we're not getting more finite in this. But then obviously he talks about the features, the look right underneath that in that paragraph. And then he goes into talking about the first third right here. Just really, let me see if I can skim. Okay. Dark chocolate came up, cinnamon cream. Let's see. Mexican hot chocolate. That's interesting because you had the pepper.
Yep. There's the cinnamon, and that's the ancho. Mexican hot chocolate has ancho chili powder in it.
Yes. There's leather, coffee bean, earth.
Yep.
Obviously tobacco. See, now that would be like my review. It's like, yeah, it's earth and tobacco and then done. Put a stamp on it. Yeah. It tastes like smoke. It tastes like a cigar. Great review, Rob.
Nailed it.
Yeah, nailed it. So, and the reason why I picked this cigar was for this very reason, that there's another taste tester, more professional taste tester, I guess, out there that you could basically see if you can cut your chops. I don't know. You'd have to you're going with the assumption that the Half Wheel review is accurate. But again,
just one person.
Yeah. And I think with Half Wheel, they smoke 3 cigars and I think there's multiple of them, but it's a small group of multiple palates saying what this is possibly. I don't know. I actually don't know. I don't know if this, because they say who reviewed it. They give the rating at the end. Oftentimes when I'm just trying to figure out what the cigar tastes like, I go straight to the bottom, overall score. I'm not so much worried about the score. I just read the summary of the notes.
Sure.
Because then I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Like overall it was good or overall it wasn't good. I don't know.
Well, I do this a lot with Half Wheel. I don't really care, or even with Cigar Aficionado. I don't really care what the rating is. I'm looking to see if the flavors that I'm picking out are aligned with a couple other reviews. People who are respected reviewers have a long library of cigars that they've tasted. They know what these flavors taste like, and then see how close I am, or see if I'm picking out something different. Because I typically really, really like cinnamon in a cigar. It's one of my favorite flavor profiles. And I'm, interestingly enough, not getting a ton of that on this cigar.
Yeah.
At least this go round.
Julie did ask, why did I pick this particular cigar? And I think I've said that already. Like I've said, I picked this particular cigar because I know that there's a review out there, but I'm not going to say the rest of it.
Sure.
Because it might give it away to Nate. So
I have a guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What are you guessing? Let's go with some of that. I mean, you're into the second third. Are there new flavors, by the way? We've been kind of talking a lot.
No, that white pepper spice, or that kind of spice on the retrohale, has come back a little bit. On the second third, it kind of went away for a little bit. I would say kind of towards the end of that first third when you were saying I was getting about there. That's come back again. The sweetness came through it as well.
White pepper.
Yep. That's what I would use, which is like a milder pepper, not quite as assertive as like a black or red pepper kind of.
What type of sweetness is coming through, did you say?
Again, like kind of that dried cherry kind of sweetness.
All right. So what was your guess on like who like, are you going to go like maker, or are you going to go origin, or like what's your guess?
I have a guess on the actual cigar.
All right, go for it.
All right. I'm going to guess Hot Cake.
Nope.
HVC.
Nope.
All right.
Do you think I would go that close to your wheelhouse?
That's possible.
Yeah, no.
I'm like, maybe.
No, you've smoked that way too much.
Right.
You'd be like, 2 puffs in, and you'd be like, Hot Cake.
Like, I wonder though if I could do that. Like if there's a cigar that you love, if you get it, I'm a little nervous about that.
Now that's a good point. That's a game you could play. And you could literally test your buddies to see how well they know a cigar. So this is just like, what the heck are you tasting, or what aromas are you getting?
Yep.
And then you could, at the end of it, Nate, you could easily then, I could give you 3 guesses or whatever, see if you nail it. Or you could really try to stump your buddies and just say, can you even guess what cigar this is?
Sure. And I'm thinking with the flavor notes that this would sort of make me think it's Mexican San Andres wrapper.
Let's go back. Let's see. No. Not.
Super interesting then. This is super fun, man.
Yeah. Would you do this in a smoke lounge with a buddy?
Sure.
I would too.
I don't give two craps what people think.
No, and actually you'd probably garnish some like attention.
You would, I think.
People would be like, what the heck is going on here?
It's just Nate being Nate again.
Well, yeah, because you're more of a regular, they would know.
Right.
Like, okay, Nate does weird stuff. So that's on.
I think if you post that up in a lounge you'd never been in before.
Then I don't know. But
you suddenly whip out a blindfold.
Hey, you might gain some respect. Like you're just trying to have fun with the experience of tasting cigars.
Sure.
That's all it's about.
I'm super intrigued now, considering the Half Wheel review had Mexican chocolate, dark chocolate, cinnamon. What the wrapper on this is then.
Ooh. It's a Habano. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. But regardless, this is a lot of fun to do in and of itself.
Yep. Still kind of that herbal, kind of fresh mint sort of quality.
Do you want to break the fold, or do you want to finish it out off camera?
No, let's take the blindfold off and see what we got. All right.
Here it is.
See if I can.
The big unveiling.
Woo. Oh, I would have never guessed that.
Yeah.
The Cubo from Dapper.
Yeah. Are your eyes adjusting to the light?
They are now. Yeah.
That's like coming out of a dark room right now.
This is about this is about where I thought the color was, just feeling the wrapper. I was like, it's in this kind of wheelhouse. And I'm like, I don't think it's San Andreas.
Okay.
But the flavors are reminiscent of what's typically in a San Andreas.
It's a Sumatra.
Okay. So darker a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's tough to say what. I mean, there's so many different types of Sumatra and Jalapa,
And it makes sense that the filler is Nicaraguan and Connecticut broadleaf, because I'm like
sweetness.
Yes.
That's
and
what
it
I love
doesn't
about it.
have enough of that spice to be sort of like traditionally all Nicaraguan.
Right. The best of both worlds.
Correct.
That's why I love this cigar.
And I would be, if I'm being honest, in the Cubo, or in this Cubo, I've smoked predominantly the smaller size of this cigar, like the Robusto.
Okay.
So this was a size I wasn't familiar with, and I'm trying to think through in my brain, I'll walk through visually some of my favorite cigar shops and think through, all right, which brands have this size?
Right.
In something I've had this flavor.
Feeling that out.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it isn't really oily, but it's a pretty smooth wrapper.
You're already trying to see the brain just has to try to peg the cigar into a category.
Sure.
It's so interesting. Because I believe the one from Half Wheel it's only 4.5 inches long, so it must be the Robusto, right? Does it's
got to be 50 ring gauge? That's got to be the Robusto. Short Robusto.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what I've had.
So, and which ones? Because there's a Sumatra, there's a Maduro, and then there's the
Oh, is
Claro.
there? I think I've only had the Sumatra.
Oh, you've had this before.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Only
Good.
a couple of the Robusto. I think we got a box of those for Boveda's all-team
Yeah.
get-together last summer.
Yep.
And so I had a couple of those that I squirreled away or kept to smoke.
You know what spawned this for me to pick this was last night I played softball and
Okay.
I lit up the Claro
Sure.
on the way to the game and smoked it. And I just, again, fell in love with the cigar all over again. It's so like that Claro has like honey, graham crackery.
Yep.
It's just one of my faves. So I hope you all enjoyed this. It was 45-ish minutes of us just trying to go through a blind cigar taste testing, pulling out all the bias, trying to dial in, get really technical. I'm going to try this off camera to see if it heightens my tasting ability. And
Absolutely.
from there, this was a pleasure.
This is a blast. Thanks for doing this with me, Rob.
This is awesome. Thank you to Perdomo for doing that. Again, obviously, if you like this channel, subscribe. We have a ton of videos coming out of our Miami series. I think we got 10 total videos coming out of that. So keep updating. So next Friday is when we're dropping the next one. We just released one with Jack Tarano from Espinosa. They're releasing the Knuckle Sandwich from Guy Fieri.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, great story. Great cigar. If it's in your shop, go try it. There's a Habano and a Maduro. I prefer the Habano, but I'm a Habano guy.
I've had both and I prefer the Habano as well.
They're great.
Yep.
So thank you all for watching. Have a great weekend. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.